Hi guys, today we are working on your worksheet 7 guided notes, and then you'll do your worksheet 7 in your homework packet. But we're talking about reflecting today, or reflections. So we're going to reflect the following over the given line of reflection. So this line they gave us is our line of reflection, and that's what we're going to flip our figure over. So it's pretty easy. Here, O is 1 away from our line, so 1 away on the other side is going to be O prime. N is 3 away, so on the other side, I'm going to put N prime 3 away. U is 2 away, so on the other side, U prime is 2 away, and M is 1 away, so 1 away on the other side is M prime. So then I just have to reconnect this. So it would look like that. So we just took our figure and we flipped it over. It should not be a different size. It's just, so it's almost like we copy and we pasted it. This line is going through our figure, but we still do the same process. So P is 2 away from the line, 2 away on the other side is P prime. Here, J is 1 away, so 1 away on the other side is J prime. And then Q is 2 away, so 2 away on the other side is Q prime. And then you can reconnect these three. Okay, so they are allowed to overlap. On our diagonal, it's a tiny bit trickier, but we're still trying to match our distance. So about 1 away, S is pretty easy. There's S prime. T takes us that much to get to the center. The same distance on the other would be T prime. And then R takes us about that far to get to the center if I try to match that distance. So here we have 1, 2, 1, 2 would give us R prime. So this one would probably be an easier one to do with the coordinates, which I'm going to show you next, instead of just counting. All right, so I'm going to reconnect this now. There's our triangle. Okay, determine the pre-image coordinates, then reflect it, and determine the image coordinates. All right, so this one is saying our pre-image is -2, 5, and it looks like that's already plotted for us. And this is our transformation notation. So this little r, lowercase r, is for reflection. And then this part is your line of reflection. So like up here, we would have done little r and whatever we would label this as. It doesn't currently have a label. But this is telling us we're reflecting over the x-axis. So if I reflect this over the x, it's going to take me 5 to get down to the x-axis. 5 more is going to be A prime. So this one will be still -2, but now you have a -5. So when we reflected over the x-axis, all we did really here was change the sign. B is at 5, 7, and that's already labeled for us, and they want us to reflect over the y-axis. So it takes us 5 to get to the middle at the y-axis. You would want to go 5 more. You're going to end up at -5, 7. For this one, C is at 3, -4. They already plotted that for us. And they want us to reflect over line M, which looks like is this one, lowercase m up there. And we have 1, 2, 3 to get to the middle, 3 on the other side will put us at 9, -4. They want us to reflect point D over the x-axis. So D's right here at 4, 4. And the x-axis, it's going to take us 4 to get to the x-axis, 4 more. Will put us at 4, -4. A is at -2, 5, and they want us to reflect over N. Which is this line here. So A, it takes us 2 to get there, 2 more. I'm going to put A double prime, since we already have an A prime. So A double prime is negative 2, 1. So here I'm going to label these B double prime and C double prime also. So this one says we want B over line M. So B is 1 away on the other side. Label that B double prime will get us to 7. 7. And then C, they want us to reflect over the y-axis. So it takes us 1, 2, 3 to get to the middle, 3 more on the other side. For C double prime is at negative 3, negative 4. Determine the name of the point that meets the given conditions. So what point would A be reflected over M? So A over M should be C. So this one is D over R. Point D over line R, that's this one, will give us B. H over N. So here's H and our line N, so it looks like that would end up at B as well. G over P. So here's line P and G, it looks like that would end up being A. Point C reflected over N. So here's line N. C means we would go straight across, so that would end up at G. And then this one is backwards. It says what flipped over P is B. So if I work backwards B and go back over line P, it looks like I would have started at F. So F flipped over P is point B. B over M is still B because it's right on line M. And then what flipped over P is C. So if I take C and flip that over P, I would end up at E. So here your capital R is for rotate. And this is saying we're rotating about point U 90 degrees. And when they give you a positive 90, that means we're going counterclockwise, because if you think about your quadrants here, you have 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going in sequential order when it's positive. When it's negative, like this one is, that's when we are going clockwise. So a positive 90 means we're going counterclockwise. And negative 90 means we're going clockwise. All right, so this is a positive 90, so we're going counterclockwise, and we're rotating figure A, B, C, D. So to do this, we're going around point U. So C, instead of straight up and down, would now be straight out for C prime. And then B would be 2 away from C. So here's B prime. And then if I keep going, A is 3 away, so 3 more. Down would be A prime. And then diagonally, we have D, so D prime would end up right here. And now I can reconnect this figure. So we took this and we rotated 90 degrees counterclockwise. 180 degrees, it doesn't matter what direction you go, because since it's half of a circle, you'll end up in the same spot, whether it's counterclockwise or clockwise. So I'm just going to copy this where it's straight onto the other side. So my G straight over, this would be G prime. And then E prime. If we think straight across, would it be here, I believe? And then F prime. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Yes, looks correct. All right, and then this last triangle, we are doing 90 degrees clockwise because of that minus 90. So clockwise is this direction. So this would end up overlapping a little bit. So there's J prime. And then if you just rotate the others. It looks like that's where H prime would end up. And then try to duplicate that, I think. K prime ends up here. This is easier when you actually have coordinates, which is what we do most of the time and what I'm going to show you next. So I'm going to reconnect these. That's what it would look like rotated 90 degrees clockwise. All right. So like I mentioned, it's easier when we do have the coordinates. So for 90 degrees, you're always going to switch your X and your Y. It doesn't matter which direction you're going, you'll switch. So if you start with X, Y, you'll end up with Y and then X. And then we'll have to take a look at the sign depending on what quadrant they're in. So if I'm rotating this 90 degrees, that'd be counterclockwise. Then I know I'm going to have a 5 and a 2. Like it's going to switch places. But my A prime is going to go from this quadrant, from quadrant 2 to quadrant 3. And everything in quadrant 3 is negative X and negative Y. So here I could switch 5 and 7. B is in quadrant 1, but it's moving into quadrant 2, and quadrant 2 has a negative X. And then C, again, I'm going to switch my 4 and my 3, and then it's going from quadrant 1 to quadrant 2, so it's going to have a negative X value. And then you can plot your points. So here's A prime. Negative 7, 5 is B prime. Negative 4, 3 is C prime. So it's a little bit harder on the first examples to do just kind of by eyeballing, but when you have coordinates, I think it's easier. Okay, triangle DEF is going 90 degrees. This time we're going clockwise. So we do switch our X and our Y, and then you have to think about where it's going. So point D is going from quadrant 1 to quadrant 4, and quadrant 4 has negative Y values. For point E, again, you switch your 2 and your 8. And it is going from quadrant 4 to quadrant 3, which has negative X and negative Y. And then same for point F. We'll switch 2 and 6, and it's going from quadrant 4 to quadrant 3, which has negative X and Y. And then we'll just replot this. And you do want to label each point. So that one's D prime. E prime. And F prime. All right, and then 180, we didn't do an example of 180, but I want you to make a note. 180 is just taking your point and flipping the signs. You don't flip the order, just the signs. So here we have rotating around point O, 90 degrees counterclockwise. So 90 counterclockwise, I believe, would land on G. Rotating 270 counterclockwise is the same as going 90 clockwise. So you can think of it as, here's D. You can think of it as you're going to go 3 sets of 90, 1, 2, 3, or you can go the other direction once. Either way, you end up on point F. This means we're going clockwise 90, so E would land on G. Counterclockwise 90, E would land on C. 180, so straight across would give us F. What rotated 180 is H, that would be D. And again, the direction doesn't matter on 180, they end up in the same spot since it's half a circle. Here we are going clockwise 90, so F would land on H. And 180, oh, I made a mistake over here. Just this last one. Right where it says notice new center rotation, we need to fix that. So this time we're going around point F. And we're going 90 degrees clockwise for E. Or 90 degrees counterclockwise, excuse me. So if we're rotating around F, E would actually land on O. And here we're rotating around point B. So I'm going to erase my markings here. So we're going around B and we're rotating A 180. So A would land on C.